Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jakaracharya Stauta Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, ISKCON founder Acharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, BBT founder Acharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Shikha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Trivandam Dham ki jai, Srinav Dham ki jai, Mayapur Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Yamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Sankirtan Yaga ki jai, Burhat Mridanga ki jai, Gaura Pramanande, Hare Hare Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Gyana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhutam Savadutam Parijana Saidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Deve Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpata Rupyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langete girim yat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Harihi Om Tat Sat Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Welcome everyone to our today's ecstatic study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And today we are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 6, Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva, verse number 6. So we would read the Sanskrit shlok together. Ekatmajam mejanani. You can follow me? Oh, 5, I'm sorry. 5. Narada Vacha Bhikshubhir Vipravasite Vijnanadishtribhir Mama Vatmano Vayasyadye Tata Etadakarasam Narada Vacha Bhikshubhir Vipravasite Vijnanadishtribhir Mama Vardhamano Vayasyate Tata Hitadakarasam Narada Vacha Bhikshubhir vipravasite Vijnanadishtribhir mama Vartamano vayasyate Tata hitadakarasham. Please. Narada vacha Bhikshubhir vipravasite Vartmano vayasyate Tata hitadakarasam. Narada vacha Bhikshubhir vipravasite Vijnanadishtribhir mama Vartmano vayasyate Dakarasham. Mataji's. Narada vacha Bhikshubhir vipravasite Vijnanadishtribhir mama Vartamano vayasyate Tata hitadakarasham. Thank you. Narada vacha Bhikshubhir vipravasite Vijnanadishtribhir mama Vartamano vayasyate Tata hitadakarasham. Word for word. Narada vacha. Sri Narada said, Bhikshubhi, by the great sages, Upravasite, having departed for other places, Vijnana, scientific spiritual knowledge, Adishtribhi, those who imparted unto me, Mama, mine, Vartamana, present, Vayasyadye, before this life, Tata, thereafter, Etat, this much, Akarasham, performed. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada's translation purport, Ki Jai. Translation. Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. Please repeat after me. Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. Purport. In his previous life, when Narada-ji was impregnated with spiritual knowledge, by the grace of the great sages, there was a tangible change in his life. Although he was only a boy of 5 years, that is an important symptom visible after initiation by the bona fide spiritual master. Actual association of devotees brings about a quick change in life for spiritual realization. How it so acted upon the previous life of Sri Narada Muni is described by and by in this chapter. Hare Krishna. So today we are trying to give the devotees some gifts. By attending the Srimad Bhagavatam, everyone can take some gifts back home. We're going to make the important points of Srila Prabhupada's purports. We make them into a mala. And then also there's one secret I'm going to share with all of you at the end of today's class. So please listen carefully. Thank you. So this purport is very significant. It mentions how one's life can be changed simply by the touch of the spiritual master. So here we are discussing about Sri Narada Muni's life. And in the 2 chapters, in this part of Srimad Bhagavatam, in Canto 1, the theme, Narada Muni's progression of his bhakti, is repeatedly mentioned again and again in all the verses and in all different purports. And now we are going to, like picking up flowers to making a beautiful mala for the deities, for Radha Madhava, Panchatattva, Prahlad, Nrsimhadev. We are going to pick up those points related to the theme, how the spiritual master's mercy, how his initiation can change one's life completely. And we are going to make them into a mala. So when we go home, we can have a deeper meditation on these Bhaktivedanta purports. Actually, the theme is mentioned in the 2nd chapter, 1st canto. And in the 2nd chapter, it describes the progressive Krishna consciousness. The vivid example is Narada Muni. And it is mentioned how he advances from the beginning, from his meeting with those Bhaktivedantas, and then up to how he's achieving the ultimate goal, the perfection of life. He not only get prema, he also get the after prema. Actually, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there are another 2 steps after prema. That is, you have direct darshan of the Lord, and then you can directly experience the sweet exchanges with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this theme is repeatedly mentioned in chapter 5 and chapter 6. So in chapter 6, in this chapter only, we are looking forward to especially the purports of verse 17 and verse 36, because in these 2 places, Narada Muni's, his life history are repeated again and again. And then if we look back for whatever we have already studied in chapter 5, we can see the same theme is repeated about Srila Narada Muni's life. Especially in verse 25 in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, he said, there are many things hinder one from entering into this path of bhakti. Actually, when we come to the path of bhakti, it is not an easy thing. First of all, we need some mercy. Sometimes we are thinking we can do it alone or we can do it by ourselves, our own endeavor, but it is not possible. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he mentioned in the 2nd chapter of this 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially from verses 16 to 21, this series of shlokas, like beautiful malas, the flowers, he analyzed there are 14 stages of how one can achieve perfection of life, beginning from the mercy of the devotees, satam kripa. First, we have to get the mercy of a devotee, because without getting the mercy of a devotee, we cannot even start to serve them. So in this Srimad Bhagavatam in 1.2.16, it is mentioned, Shushu Sho Shratadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Sem Mahat Seva Ya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. First of all, we need some mercy. By the mercy, by the touch of the pure devotees of the Lord, then we get opportunities to serve them. Without this causeless mercy, how can we get the opportunity to serve their lotus feet? And then we start Mahat Seva. we start to serve the pure devotees, like Narada Muni. First, he's meeting with the devotees because of Chaturmasya, the 4 months of rainy season. Those great sages, the Bhaktivedantas, they would stay in one place. So this created the opportunity for Narada Muni to contact them. And then he get their mercy, so the mercy means a service. He starts to serve them. And he has a very sweet attitude of service. And simply by this service, he get the faith, Shraddha. Only by the service, we get Shraddha, we get faith. And when the faith slowly build up, and then we have the desire for Guru Padashraya, we like to take shelter of the lotus feet of bona fide spiritual master. So in the last chapter, in chapter 5 of this first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the purport of 25th shloka, Prabhupada mentioned in his purport that so a neophyte devotee, he can practically be enriched by the transcendental qualities of the pure devotees. And then he would get the same qualities of the pure devotees, like Narada Muni, by serving in his previous life as a son of a maidservant. By serving those Bhaktivedanta pure devotees, he got the same taste, Vasudeva Kataruchi. He got this taste to hear more of the pastimes of Lord Krishna. And then when he imbibed these same qualities of the pure devotees, and then Prabhupada said, this is the real value of Vaishnava association. When we're getting together, we're associating with each other. It is not for the purpose of Pajalpa. It is for the purpose only for Krishna Katha. So Prabhupada mentioned that the hearing of Krishna can transform one into a devotee. The hearing, simply by hearing of Krishna's message, Krishna's instructions, Krishna's glories, his name, fame, qualities, pastimes, then one can become a devotee. And then in the next purport, in 1.5.26, in his purport, Srila Prabhupada astonishingly revealed. He said the whole idea is that simply by hearing about the Lord, the whole idea of simply by hearing the Lord's pastimes, and then one become one of the associates of the Lord. Simply by hearing, then one can get the good fortune by becoming one of the associates of the Lord. So one can attain the highest perfection of life simply by attentive hearing of the transcendental pastime of the Lord from the right sources. As Sri Narada heard them from the pure devotees, the Bhaktivedantas, in his previous life as the son of a maidservant. Now it's very easy for us to get this Krishna Katha. We can simply just turn on our mobile, we tune into Mayapur TV or the relevant Facebook channels, but not the other channels. Here, Prabhupada, he repeatedly emphasized we have to hear from the right source, must be from the right source. If we are hearing from the wrong source, because when you are browsing the internet, it's very easily become diverted to other things. Half an hour passed and you didn't achieve anything. And so we must hear from the right source. Then, after taking this Guru Padashraya, after taking the shelter of the pure devotees of the Lord, the next step is we can develop this bhajaneshu spurha, the eagerness to worship. This eagerness to worship is very important. We have to be full of enthusiasm to perform our devotional service. And in Sanatana Goswami's Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita, in the first canto, in the first chapter, in the first verse, he first glorified Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why he first glorified Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gives us an example how intensely one should become eager to hear the Lord's message and try to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, the Lord's incarnation as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he comes to reveal to us the highest devotees in Goloka Vrindavan, the gopis, how is their mood of serving Lord Krishna with this eagerness. And sometimes maybe we are thinking we have a lot of time, we can do our service slowly, but it's not. Because if we are not pay attention to this point now, then how can we develop that supreme eagerness to serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Then, without developing that proper attitude, how can we become and associate Lord Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan? Because those associates mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, the gopis, they cannot even tolerate the moment of blinking their eyes. That much time they cannot see Lord Krishna. They are feeling distressed. And the gopas, when they're going to the forest to herd the calves with Lord Krishna, they're playing. When Krishna is passing through some trees and his figure is blocked by the tree, and then they are crying. They are very eager to see Krishna. So in order to achieve the same position of uninterrupted association with Lord Krishna, in order to join those eternal associates, to join his pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan, we must also cultivate the same eagerness. And how? By the mercy of the Lord's pure devotees, especially by the spiritual masters. And there is a very beautiful purport in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 32. There is a very beautiful analogy in this purport. Prabhupada said, just like the fire exists in the wood, and the fire in the wood can be kindled by another fire. That means, in the same way, the divine consciousness of a man can be kindled by another divine grace. Therefore, his divine grace, the spiritual master, he can kindle the fire within the wood-like living entities. By what means? By imparting the transcendental knowledge injected through our receptive ears. That's why we relish and treasure the Sangha of the devotees. Even Lord Kapila Dev, he is the Supreme Lord himself. He instructs his mother Devahuti in 3.25.25. He said, Satam prasangam mama virya samvido pavanti ritkarna rasayana kata tato sanada svapavarga vartmani shwata ratir bhaktir anukramishyati. Among the association of the pure devotees, the discussion of the glories and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing to the ears and also pleasing to the hearts. And in this association, one can make advancement on the path of liberation. And then one becomes free. Free from what? Free from all the anarthas, free from all the sinful activities. Just like Narada Muni, by associating with the Bhaktivedantas, by eating with them, by listening to them, by serving them, by staying with them, he's completely free from all the sinful activities and the results of the sinful reactions. And then, only by then, one's taste becomes fixed. And then, Shrataratir Bhaktir Anukramishyati. Only by then, one's devotion and devotional service begin. And we can see how Narada, and when he gathered mercy, he himself became a spiritual master and he instructed his disciples. Two of his wonderful disciples, we can give examples. One's Dhruva Maharaj. Another one is Prahlad Maharaj. They imbibed the same spirit of their spiritual master. That's why we can see even the ages, exemplary ages. Narada Muni got this enlightenment, initiation, and the perfection of his life at the age of 5. Also Dhruva Maharaj. Also Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, when he was only 5 years old, he's preaching to his demoniac father. He's instructing his father, you should Vanagatoyat, and you should go to Vrindavan. He said, why you should go to Vrindavan? Don't forget, he's talking about directly to the greatest demon, Asura, king of the Asuras in this whole universe. Even he moved his eyebrows. Those great demigods, they are shivering in fear. But then, 5 years old, Prahlad Maharaj, he's not afraid of him. He said, you should go to Vrindavan because that place, only Krishna consciousness is prevalent. And when you go there, you can take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he also instructs his classmates in the Gurukul of the demons' children. He told those children, he said, Kaumara Acharid Pragyo, one who is sufficiently intelligent, he should try to cultivate, try to practice the activities of devotional service from the very beginning of life. In other words, like Kaumara age, like even starting from very tender age of childhood. And you should start. Why? Because Dharmam Bhagavatam iha Durlabham Jamma and Durlabham Manusam Jamma Tadapi Yaduvam Martadam. Thank you. Because this human body of form, this human form of body is most rarely achieved. And although this human life is as temporary as the other bodies, but it has one unique function. Only in this human body of life, you can perform devotional service, and tadapi yadruvam artadam. And even a little bit of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. This is a kid, only 5 years of old. And he's instructing his classmates. Why? Because he got the mercy of his spiritual master. When our life is touched by the spiritual master, then it's completely changed. And from another perspective, we can see Prahlad Maharaj, at the age of 5, he becomes an ideal preacher of Krishna consciousness, simply because of his spiritual master's mercy. And he mentioned to his father. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see all these beautiful verses. He said, Maivo duji para duratyaya vaitaranyas, tad virya gayana mahamirta magnacheta, socheta to vimukha chetasa indriyarta, maya sukhaya param udvahato vimudham. He said, oh, the greatest of the personalities, the greatest of the great personalities, I am not afraid of material existence at all, because wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in your glories and your activities. And my only concern is the fools and rascals, because they are making elaborate plans for material happiness, maintaining their families, societies, and countries. So I am simply concerned with love for them. This is a 5 years old devotee. It's not only sentiment. He is like the guru of his classmates. He's like the guru of his father. He's like the guru of the whole universe. And further, he told his father, he said, no, this is after the Lord Nrsingadev killed his father here in Kashipu, and then he's offering a beautiful prayer to Lord Nrsingadev. He said, my dear Lord Nrsingadev, I can see there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are only interested in their own liberation, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, monavrata. But for me, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside those fools and rascals. Because I know, without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter at your lotus feet, no one can be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter to your lotus feet. This is a perfect example. When one gets the mercy of his spiritual master. And then from this we can learn. And more recently, we can see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after he took sannyas, he went to Jagannath Puri. In 15 days, he converted all the Sri Kshetravasis, including the biggest scholar at that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And before Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's talking like Mayavad philosophies, but then after he gets the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he becomes the Lord's disciple. He got his instructions. He's completely changed. And even when he's reading Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, Tatenu kampam susamikshamano bunjan evatma kritam vipakam ritvagva pupirvidhatan namaste jivita yo mukti pade sadhayavak. And he said, no, when I read mukti pade, I am shivering in fear. He said, we can change the Srimad Bhagavatam from mukti pade into bhakti pade. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has to convince him with endeavor that Lord can also be addressed as mukti pad. This is the power of the spiritual master. And then, so we have been listing all these beautiful shlokas. This mala is complete, but needs to be meditated more and more. So I give the mala to all of you. And then we are going to talk the confidential part. The confidential part, as we mentioned, when another divine grace, his divine grace, the spiritual master, when he kindled the fire within us, the wood-like living entities. And what is the result? The result is then the divine existence is gradually revealed. So the difference between animosity and humanity lies in this process only. In other words, either we are animals or human beings. It depends on this process of how we can hear the divine message of the Lord from the right source, and then we make our progress on this path of liberation. And as I mentioned, I said in the beginning of today's class, I said I have a gift, I have a secret, because again we have to talk about Prahlad Maharaj. He told his father, he said, that one has to smear the dust coming from the lotus feet of the pure devotees of the Lord in order to be free completely from material contamination. Then I've been thinking a lot, how can we get the dust of the pure devotees of lotus feet? And everywhere I try to go to the living quarters of the pure devotees, I see their servants. They clean their floors very spotless. I can hardly find any dust. And then, like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he points out in the Srimad Bhagavatam verse 1.2.16, Punya Tirtha Nishevanat, he said, the Tirtha also has the meaning of the pure devotees. So Tirtha also means the holy town. And then 1 year, 2 years back, when I was doing parikram, I thought we can get the dust from the lotus feet of the pure devotees by participating in this parikrama. But lockdown happened. Even the parikrama stopped. We can only do virtual parikram. Then how to find this Mahiya Sampada Rajobhishekam, the dust from the pure devotees of lotus feet? How can we get them? And we have to get enough to completely cover our whole body with this dust. Recently, I find the secret, and I like to share with all of you. The dust actually, in their instructions, in the messages they're imparting to us, this is infectious. And I can give all of you a practical example. The practical example is His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, JPSAPP. Maharaj, he is tirelessly performing all his devotional service in any circumstances. And then he's also recording whatever he's doing and send the messages. As he himself mentioned, he wants to offer the hot press to all the devotees. And by following that messages, you can feel the dust. You can completely be covered with the dust from the pure devotees of lotus feet. So let me ask you, who likes to get the dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee of the Lord? Haribo! Thank you. The secret is to, every one of you have mobile, I assume. Smartphone, please download Jayapataka Swami app and make sure you read them. And you have to check the news from time to time, because any time the news may come up, and sometimes even midnight, early in the morning. And recently Maharaj mentioned, he said, he was talking with the chief teacher, Atu Krishna Prabhu from Mayapur Institute, and they were talking about how to implement more of Srila Prabhupada's vision of giving the devotees certificates of Bhakti Sastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, and Bhakti Vedantas. And he said, they would like to offer me an honorary degree, but he said, I refused. Maharaj said, I want to learn it the hard way. I want to read all the books, pass all the exams. And he said, they give me special permission, I can give oral exams because half of my body is paralyzed. So it's difficult for me to write. He said he would personally sit for the exams and get the certificate of Bhakti Vedanta to inspire all the devotees, especially the leaders and preachers. And then if we pay attention to the news thread for the past few days, we can see that Monday he sent the news. Monday the news is, he quotes from one Srila Prabhupada's audio file. He said, in 1975, April 6, Srila Prabhupada, he gave a lecture in Sridham, Mayapur. And in that lecture, Srila Prabhupada is talking about how to expand the number of acharyas all over the world. And he said, Srila Prabhupada instructs that we should have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, and tens of millions of acharyas. And in this way, there will be no shortage of acharya. Every one of us should have this vision, should try to endeavor to become acharyas. Maybe we didn't realize this, but this message, like through Maharaj's messages, becoming more and more prominent. This is Srila Prabhupada's desire. Tens of millions of acharyas. And then Tuesday, he said we should expand the number of acharyas in the world. So he's encouraging us, all of the devotees, we should read Srila Prabhupada's books, but not only Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada's all books. We should try to endeavor to read all Srila Prabhupada's books and be ready to take the service of being Srila Prabhupada's acharya. We should be ready to take Srila Prabhupada's acharya's service. And this is also Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's vision to his followers. And then we mentioned about Monday, Tuesday, now comes to Wednesday. Wednesday, what happened? From JPSAPP, one news with pictures coming up. He said, today I give initiations to Dr. Harsha. So in order to, as we know, Maharaj, he also contacted this COVID-19 and he's fighting with the virus. And although he's doing all the daily routine therapies, and it's really a great struggle and a fight to deal with this virus, at the same time, He's keeping up his preaching. He's always thinking how to expand the movement, how to give the devotees more facilities. And he's initiating. He's doing initiation, Harinam initiation to his doctor. The devotees, the international doctor team, they send an ICU doctor to treat him, Dr. Harsha, treating him, overseeing all his treatment. And then he initiated this doctor into Hare Guru Gauradas. And at the same time, the later part of the news, he mentioned all the doctors serving with doctor also took aspiring. They all attended the ceremony for becoming Maharaj's aspiring disciples, and they expressed their desire to commit themselves, to dedicate their lives for the service of Guru and Krishna. Haribo! Then Thursday, I was thinking, oh, tomorrow I have to give class. I need one practical example. Around us, we do have a lot of excellent examples, but because of their extreme humility, they forbade me to reveal their glories. Then I thought of my classmate, my Bhaktivedanta classmate, Srinivas Gopal Prabhu. So last night I had a very brief interview with him through WhatsApp messages. I asked him a few messages. I said, what are you doing? And then, how are you developing? So then I understand, by Guru's order, simply by pleasing his spiritual master, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, he went to Jharkhand. Only 3 devotees, 3 brahmacharis, they went to a far place. As we remember from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, that place is 500 years ago, a jungle. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he entered into the jungle and he made all the animals dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. The deers and tigers are embracing each other and kissing each other and chanting in ecstasy. And he went there, and they're trying to develop a center there. Now there's a city. It is very important dham. It's one of the Shiva dhams, and there are thousands of people living there. And before, their plan was to stay there every month, maybe like a week. But then because of lockdown, they were locked. They cannot come back. So during this few months of lockdown, from 3 devotees, now they're developing to 50 to 70 regular devotees. And all the devotees are chanting 16 rounds, 8 rounds, 4 rounds. And they have everyday morning programs and evening programs, including classes, kirtans, and prasadam. And every Sunday, they have a Sunday special program. And they start from renting a place, and now they get their own land, ready to build a temple for Lord Krishna. And we have to think, they started almost also like scratches, and simply by the faith to please the Guru. And they achieved this much. And that place, not only from the material facility, is a great struggle, but also the mentality, the ideology of the local people. That place is Lord Shiva's place. So the local people, they're worshiping Lord Shiva as a demigod, not as the great devotee of Krishna. And there are so many other spiritual centers established 10 years back, 20 years back. So in order to preach Krishna consciousness in such a place, we can also say this is like a forest, not a forest of jungles, but a forest of buildings, cements, concrete, and how much they achieved. So they are trying really, really hard, and they achieved this much. And from all these examples, we can feel the same inspiration, and we do something. We can also become a part to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desire, to fulfill Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the previous acharyas' desire. We have to be ready to prepare ourselves to take to this acharya's service. And we can meditate the mercy of the spiritual master and the Lord. It is mentioned in the Srila Jayapataka Maharaj's evening classes. I also highly recommend everyone not only listening to Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, but please also take the advantage of listening to the Gaura Bhagavatam in the evening by Maharaj. In his classes, you can understand all the details about the same pastimes, and you can have a better meditation of all these pastimes, and you can even better to imbibe the qualities of the pure devotees. Because Maharaj's class, he would combine all the informations coming from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Morai Gupta Korcha, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya, and Chaitanya Chandradoya Nataka. And in this part, now going on, it is mentioned Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after leaving Jagannath Puri, he's doing his South Indian tour. And in his South Indian tour, he is doing the function of a spiritual master. He is giving this Krishna Shakti, this Bhakti Shakti to all the people he met. And it's very simple. Whoever see him chanting and dancing in ecstasy, they also become pure devotees. And then when these pure devotees, they went back to their own villages, and whoever coming to see them from their own villages, their own relatives, their own family members, and whoever coming from the other villages, whoever see their ecstasy, their manifestation of these symptoms, they also become pure devotees. This Bhakti Shakti is very, very contagious. And then it is very interesting. It is mentioned that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only revealed this Bhakti Shakti in South India. He's not even revealing this in Navadvip, in his hometown. Why? Because the atmosphere there in the South India is more conducive. And here in Navadvip, a lot of people, they're jealous. The Smarta Brahmanas. And there are so many opponent elements. So this is also an instruction for us when we are preaching. We can take so many instructions from all their life examples from the Shastras. Then we can achieve our own success. And if we can try to catch all these spiritual messages, we can try to cultivate the same eagerness, you would really feel the difference. From my own experience, I do feel the experience, because sometimes Maharaj's messages coming constantly. Whole day you have to spend time to translate, proofreading, and then posting them. And it teaches you how to overcome the limits of our conditions. And then when you reach the stage of, you have to learn to try to reach the stage of performing devotional service without any reservations, ahaituki apratihata, without any ulterior motivations, constantly, uninterrupted. Then you can feel some drops of nectar. Then we feel like wherever we stay, we really got that feelings of Vrindavan consciousness. And recently, in 9th of January, there's a celebration, a memorial celebration of Sri Yamuna Devi in Vrindavan Dham. And Dinabandhu Prabhu, His Grace Dinabandhu Prabhu, he mentioned Yamuna Devi's life history. He said, at the beginning, she's coming to see Prabhupada, and the first time she saw Prabhupada, she has been following a very healthy diet, but Prabhupada is offering him such a rich prasadam feast, and she's very hard to swallow everything, but somehow or other she's curbing her urge of throwing up everything in front of Srila Prabhupada. He swallowed everything. And in her mind, she made a decision. She said, for the rest of my life, I will never, never, ever have anything to do with this man. And then at that time, Srila Prabhupada, he reached a jar with juice, Iskambulis, and he gave Yamuna Devi one Iskambulis. And he said, all my disciples, they like it. So I guess you also like it very much. And she out of politeness, she eats that, but then she again make this decision that in my whole life I would never ever have anything to do with this man in my life. But then Srila Prabhupada, by his devotional touch, at the end of their conversation, he made her promise, okay, tomorrow 7:30 I will come to help you to cook prasadam. Then later on, from her biography, we understand the beautiful pastime that once on the train when they're traveling together, how in order to make hot rice for Srila Prabhupada, she would be willing to sacrifice her life. She told the conductor, she told the chief person in charge of the kitchen in the train, she said, if you don't allow me to serve my spiritual master, if you don't give me the facility to cook hot rice for my spiritual master, I would jump out from the train, I would commit suicide. Then, when we are thinking about these beautiful pastimes, we start to get more and more strength, more and more empowered by the power of the touch of the pure devotee of the Lord, spiritual master. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you for your patience. Any corrections? And you first, for women, you want to say something? Mike, please. Then, after, yes.
Thank you very much. Very enthusiastic and environment talk this morning.
Hare Krishna.
I'll try to spend it more seriously now.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. How do you call yourself? And what is your native language, please?
Myself, I try to call myself Gopi Bartu Padkamalayu Das Das Anu Das. And my native language is Chinese.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful class. Really appreciate your enthusiasm. And it's infectious. That's the true virus. That we got from China.
Thank you. Actually, before the class, I made a decision. I have a tendency to become nervous when I speak in front of so many people, but then I decided, life after life, I am shamelessly committing the 4 offenses. I break all the 4 regulative principles, life after life, and I'm not feeling any shame. And why I feel shamed about broadcasting the glories of pure devotees of the Lord and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I decided I would boldly to preach. And then there must be some discrepancies in my presentation. And therefore, I would like to invite all of you to join me to compensate any discrepancies in this presentation. According to Srila Jiva Goswami's suggestion, he said any discrepancies in our performance of activities can be compensated by the loudly chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let us all go now downstairs to join the prayers for the speedy recovery of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj. Haribol.